recording. And this is the beginning of the 4th session of the 21st time I've done this Klein Artist Works course, and you guys are the best course ever. So let's talk about galleries. I think first what I need to say is that I feel pretty strongly that artists and galleries are on the same page. And you have the same interests and the same kind of an agenda. And if you encounter a gallery about which you feel differently, it probably isn't the gallery for you. There are some lousy galleries. There's some galleries that are pretty ignorant. But, you know, on the whole, most galleries are like you guys. They do it because they believe in art. And they feel like they have a calling. I think artists have a calling. I think people who run galleries feel like they have a calling. You know, a little bit of difference. I think the majority of people who run art galleries wish they were artists. They began as artists. They realized in one way or another they sucked. They didn't have, in my case, fine hand control. I would weld, I would grind, there would be a hole, I would fill it, I would grind, I would weld, damn it. You know? Ultimately, I submitted my art to a competition in California where I was living, and I got rejected because I wasn't born in California. I didn't read the fine print. I said, enough of this. I'd rather be on the side that judges. But I've always felt like, you know, as having had a gallery, that I was really empathic with artists, and that I'm really an artist at heart, and it's about creativity. And my experience is that people who run art galleries are the same. A lot of them get conditioned to move towards being business people and put aside certain kinds of art priorities, which means periodically you can call them on it. Like, for example, there's an artist who took the course right now who's terminated a relationship with a gallery that in the process of sending the work back to her hurt it. You know, and I think you can remind the gallery that they have a moral standing to do this, you know, to make good on what happened. I think the same thing can happen frequently, but, you know, I'm getting way ahead of the game. What I really want to be able to say is that galleries and artists are on the same team. A lot of artists feel like galleries are working against them, or that the gallery doesn't like them, or that they are just some kind of pissant in the gallery's eyes. You know, sometimes that's true. You know, don't take a whole lot of abuse. This is like a marriage. Stand up for what you believe in. All right, so a gallery frequently, not always, has a vision. It has an aesthetic that it tends to emphasize. Only living figurative artists. Only abstract artists. I used to talk about living and dead artists. Now I call them horizontal and vertical. Horizontal are the dead ones. You know, only horizontal artists. That is an artist to make horizontal paintings, you know. We can call them above and below ground. Some galleries, you know, like human beings. This is what I asked previously. Are artists and galleries different? A lot of galleries aren't sure of themselves. So they ask other people for opinions aesthetically. I know a gallery that's pretty successful by asking curators, ooh, what's cool, what's hot, what's up and coming, what should I be looking for, what should I show? Which brings up the point that most galleries and curators, etc., don't have enough time to be encyclopedic about what they look at and hear or see. Look and see. So they must curate with their ears, and they're prone to listening to the opinions of other galleries they respect and their artists. Hint, it behooves you to have a relationship with artists who have galleries. It behooves you to make those relationships genuine. Galleries sometimes want to work with young artists and under $1,000 or under $5,000 or over $10,000 or over $100,000, or we want to mix of some. You know, most art galleries nowadays feel some compulsion to have X number of old, X number of young, X number of white, X number of black, X number of female, X number of Hispanic, etc. I remember when I had a gallery and I hired my first director to help me run the place, she said, "How come you only have such a predilection for male artists?" And I said, "I do not." She said, "Really? You represent 20 artists, 19 of them are men." I said, "Really?" Okay, I mean, this is like, has something to do with current topics of the discussion today. All right, you know, I think sometimes people, galleries, men need to be called on their stuff so that they can be reminded, like they're sometimes myopic. You know, when that got pointed out to me, I did something about it and moved to fix the situation. Took a while and I got there. Galleries, like humans, are not perfect. I think it's about the relationship more than it is about the art. It's about both. Let's assume they're somewhere close to equal. I'm not sure, though, because, you know, I think your art and what you do with it changes. I think the relationship, I mean, look at the people who've been your old friends. You know, some of them, there's very few things that come up that are deal breakers with someone who's an old friend. You know, but if somebody's aesthetic changes, you know, they go from painting pictures of Donald Duck to painting pictures of Minnie Mouse, you know, well, that's not okay. So, you know, I mean, if you only like pictures, you know, if you only like their landscapes, I mean, if you only liked Richter's paintings of candles and then he starts doing landscapes or, you know, portraits, or he's doing abstracts, do you terminate the relationship? I think it's better if you have a relationship because you like the person, you appreciate their mind. It's another hint about galleries. Grow relationships with human beings. I think the art needs to be pretty damn close to a prerequisite. It needs to be good. But the relationship is best served if it comes first, because then the person is in the right mindset to like you or like your art, because they do like you. You know, take a look at people in this course who you like, who you haven't looked at their art. Or you do look at their art because you sort of kind of like them and you wonder what it's like, and you look at their art and you find a way to like it because you want to. I mean, this whole art thing is subjective, right? Is somebody a better painter than Ted Williams was a hitter? I don't think so. I don't think you can make that kind, you know, I mean, baseball players have batting averages. We can make comparisons. I don't think you can do that with art. It's all subjective. That's the thing that enables each and every one of you to succeed, is growing the relationships and finding the number of people you need, 6, I calculate, to enable you to have success. It's interesting to differentiate between an art gallery or a dealer and a gallerist. It too is kind of like a mental psychological term. But a gallerist is someone that is interested in the long haul, in your career. And this is fragile. A dealer is someone who's interested in consummating the sale. We did a webinar with Akio, I love the name, Akio Aoki from Sao Paulo, Brazil, who talked about how they don't sell art to Southeast Asians because the Southeast Asians do not lend their art to museum exhibits, so it doesn't get seen, so the artist isn't well served by having the art bought. And, you know, it's kind of a problem. What happens, it looks great when your art's bought by a museum, but then it doesn't get seen for 100 years. I mean, like, it looks good on your resume, it propels your career, and the art is put into sort of like a silence chamber. It's no longer, it's put in a dark room and not allowed to communicate. Kind of weird. So a gallerist is interested in the long haul. But see, the delicate part about that is that frequently, you know, artists like you will establish relationships with galleries that sell art for $5,000 to $10,000 to $5,000 to $20,000, and your art will get to be $50,000, and a gallery that sells art from $40,000 to $80,000 and $100,000 will say, "Yo, why don't you come with us?" And you'll say, "Oh, I can get more money and sell more art, but what about the, oh, well." So, you know, it gets a little tricky sometimes. I mean, loyalties and relationships. I encourage you to grow relationships with people, individuals that resonate. I encourage you not to burn bridges, too. The art world's really small. There's only like 5 or 6 people in it. I mean, you kind of discover that. I mean, you know, I'm introducing people in Oklahoma City who, you know, to each other. I mean, it's like, it's teeny. I got a webinar that more people, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. More people have seen that than live in Newark. I find that astonishing. So let's talk about what you guys heard. I mean, first of all, don't you get that these galleries are people and that they are capable of having normal conversations and that you should be polite, but you don't need to genuflect, you know, and that there are no gatekeepers per se? You know, nobody's judging whether your art is worthy. I love this. I don't think there's such a thing as a rejection letter. I don't think you can be rejected by a gallery per se, any more than you can be walking down the street and seeing somebody really cute with headphones on and go, "Hi, you're awesome," and they walk right by you. They didn't reject you. You didn't register. It's not rejection. They had some other agenda. I think when a gallery is not interested in doing something with your art, it means your agenda does not conform to my agenda. My agenda is the one that makes determinations about this gallery. Your work is super awesome. Your work is not awesome. I don't know, but it doesn't fit where I'm going. It's back to the dating thing. I don't, you know, I mean, if you're in a relationship and then they say no, maybe that's rejection. But if the relationship hasn't begun, I don't think it's begun. You know, and I also think that we can talk about this more next week when we talk about how to grow a relationship with a gallery. I don't want to talk about that much. I'm going to try and not answer your questions about that facet of it because there's plenty to talk about next week about it. I wanted to establish the bigger picture of how galleries function and what they do. You know, I think it's important, one sec, to realize that there's a difference in gallery behavior. The more galleries get more established, a gallery gets more established and respectable, as in grows up. So a young gallery, a baby gallery, would probably say, "We don't pay shipping. We don't pay postage for announcements. We will send out one to our email list. Give me your email list." You know, some of that stuff you may not be comfortable with. A better gallery will say, "We'll pay shipping one way." You can see the differences that are going on here. A better gallery than that will say, "We'll pay shipping to us," because that's probably more expensive, and you pay shipping back to you because we've sold 80%, so it should be cheaper. A better gallery will say, We take care of all the shipping. A better gallery will say, we take care of the shipping. You want a catalog? A better gallery will say, hey, we ought to advertise that catalog in a couple of national art magazines and put some stuff online too, don't you think? A third gallery, a better gallery will say, it's time for you to get rid of your website and make sure that everything goes through here, and we'll take care of sending a photographer by to shoot your new work and arrange to have somebody come over and wrap it for us so that we can ship it to the gallery so we can send it to museums in Europe. At each of these stages, there are different kinds of headaches. The struggle, I hope as a result of this course, you find a way to make peace and find joy in the process of making art and getting it out into the world in the manner in which you want. But there's I don't think this is about achieving goals. I think this is about a process. And the process for me is always, what can I do to better be able to get my art, your art out into the world to communicate to more people? If you get more successful, your mission isn't going to change. You're still going to be wanting to get your art out to more people, to communicate more effectively, to imprint your change onto the world, to create the world in your image, and to share whatever you've learned with others. So it's pretty much always all about, I think, growing and creating new experiences. I feel like I just went off on a sidetrack. Which probably means I should open it up for questions. I've been sitting here watching Mark the whole time. It's nice to be able to see somebody. Sometimes I end up staring at an empty screen or something. It's really hard to not to see humans when I talk. And for the recording, I'd rather have it be, put some hands up, you kids. Come on, get an A. I think, it's nice to see faces and stuff. All right, yeah, I see you, Mark. I'm not calling on you. I'm going to pick on people I have not heard from much, like Carrie. Hi, Carrie, you're unmuted. Did you listen to anything?
Yeah, I think the thing that caught my attention was just your description about. Okay, let me frame it this way. So I remember sending my slides back in the day to have a gallery take a look at it. It was the result of having submitted a few of my works to a community exhibit, and the owner of the gallery was invited to jury that exhibit. It was my first experience. I was really having kind of a beginner's luck experience. I wanted to follow that up by submitting my work to that gallery and finding out how to do it. And what I was told is they didn't have room for my work at the time, and they would be interested in my work as it developed. What do you say to that?
One, I think this is predominantly what I want to talk about next week. Two, okay. It's evidence of going forward with sex instead of with substance. I think, I'm equating this to dating, and I think when we're talking about the art, we're talking about sex. And when we're talking about the relationship, we're talking about something more substantive. I think that it's important to grow the relationship first. I think you would have been better served being in touch with the gallery saying, wow, it's so cool. I love that you like my work. And look at all the, because you like so many other cool things. I'm really impressed with you. Look how cool you are. Look how nice your shoes are. Gosh, your teeth are pretty. Wait, oh, I can't wait to see you again. Bye-bye. Okay, the next time you go back and go, hey, you got a haircut. You're looking really good.
I and actually happened a very long time ago, but as that gallery has since closed and the person who was the gallery assistant at the time has opened his own gallery, I've stayed in touch with that person through various means, the most recent being doing research on an art collection that exists in the university in my community.
I think that's great. I want to cut you
So,
off. That's the
I mean,
stuff that's the stuff I want to talk about next week, not now. I want to talk about the bigger picture,
okay,
about how galleries function and
okay,
what they do, and not the specificity about a relationship with a gallery per se. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
okay,
Um,
okay.
I want more hands, you guys. Put up some hands. I'm going to go to Mark and see if, Mark, are you on topic? Go for it. Mark, you're unmuted.
I was just going to say that, yes, I do agree with a lot of the ones that we heard this week. My family, we used to have a gallery here in Oklahoma City. And my stepmother, who started it, was sort of a frustrated artist and wanted to support the community, but didn't really want to pursue her art. So I totally understand a lot of what they were saying. From my own experience, I agree with that. And also, I think that what maybe this doesn't stay on subject, but because of these lectures or these interviews this week, it made me want to talk to my gallery owner on a different level than I've ever talked to him before.
Precisely.
And what I wanted to talk with him about was, and I
Wait.
chose the word. Go.
Preface this by, what's the difference? How did you used to, and what are you doing differently?
We brainstorm all the time, and we brainstorm about gallery. In fact, yes, a couple of the artists that are in the gallery are because of me, and because I get out a lot in the city. I know some of the names, and I know the ones that I'd like to be seen with, quite honestly.
Exactly.
And so
he or she respects your opinion and goes, oh, cool, I'll take a look.
And yes, he does respect that. And also, I help him do a little bit of brainstorming, with just some of the look of the gallery as well. But what I wanted to talk about this week with him was that, okay, what's a business? How can we start brainstorming a different, maybe trajectory for myself with him? And his focus, yes, his vision is not to sell fine art, painting, sculpture. His vision really, and what he does mainly, is sell African sculpture, African masks. And he's quite well known in the field for that. And my work, my black and white work, happens to look really well with those. And I've been trying to get into some of his trade shows with him for many years. And he said, only now, because it's kind of a haughty kind of an industry, only now are they even able to start allowing him to put other things in the gallery. So it's like, okay, well, now it's time to, let's do this. You know, when can we do it? But keeping him on task, I think, is a lot of it, is that he's got a huge pre-concerns for the gallery and his other people, not just me. So I want to keep him on task to help some of the things that I've got ideas about. So these guys this week were really right on with that. And I think they really pushed me into that next level as well. Again, I don't want to hog the stage here, but there's a lot of things that they did.
Let me comment on that and then get back to you if I need in a moment. I think it's important to be in touch with a gallery in the neighborhood of monthly, you know, and to show up at events just to support them, to be a warm body, if nothing else, you know, like at some of their openings. I think it's nice when a lot of the artists show up to support the other artists. I think one of the highest compliments, things that impress me most, is when an artist recommends or shares another artist, you know? I mean, like the story that Clyde posted on the 21 website or whatever about, you know, an artist whose work was different than his, and they're sharing and his talking about what he or she did. I think that's really cool. I like that. And so I think basically what you're talking about is good. And I think, you know, Catherine Edelman talked about not talking to the artist very much, or only when you have to. They're adults, leave them alone. But, you know, I know that when somebody talks to me about something or says, you got an idea about this, or gives me something to stimulate me, you know, somewhere in the back of my mind, wheels start turning. And, you know, it elevates them. And, you know, if it happens monthly, I start finding ways to do something and engage them. You know, if I'm exhibiting in Chicago at an art fair in Chicago, and I've got artists who are not from here but from somewhere else, if they tell me that they're coming to Chicago because of the fair, there's a whole lot better chance I'm going to put their art up in my gallery than if they're not coming. You know, it's the same kind of mentality. Jeff, I'm going to you, and then I would like to see some more hands, you guys. All right, Jeff.
That was great. Those webinars are really good. And I concur with Mark. It made me rethink my relationship with my gallery and have that conversation with them. I think that the Wickelman Gallery, his blog is exceptional. That whole avenue of discussion when they talked about how to get galleries. I know this is next week's conversation, but we should reference that because that was incredible.
He's really good.
I have a
question. He writes really well too.
Yeah, I have a question on this. How do you find the bad apples? I mean, when you're doing your research on galleries,
cool.
Is that a tall tale sign that you can just pick it out of the blue, or how does that?
It's not hard.
Okay.
Once you think you're interested in the gallery, ask people who show with them.
Okay.
You know, Joey Blowy wants to represent me. You show with Joey. Does he pay his artists on time? Do you like working with him? Would you encourage me to do that? That's all you need, you know. You ask that of 3 artists, 1 or 2 of them will answer you, and you know I don't know that you can know beforehand.
Is it pretty easy to see the tiers of artists, the group? There's, like you talked about, just starting out gallery owners, and then
I thought you were talking about like crocodile tears. And all the poor artists on the sidewalk run over. Is it possible to see the tears? No, no, they evaporate. The blood stains are everywhere. Yeah, kind of. I mean, I think you are on the threshold of being able to tell. And to be able to tell is, I mean, I just go to the artists and look at the artists they show and see what the caliber of the art is. You know, I mean, if you need to go further than that, you can look at the resumes of the people. But I can pretty much tell if art is KAW or not.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you know, if they're showing Cy Twombly, it's probably above me.
Yeah. I guess you can tell too by the shows that they art fairs.
Yes, but I see an awful lot of galleries showing 40 and 50 and 60-year-old artists who have never shown anywhere before, and having exhibits with major galleries who are selling their work for $30, $40, $50, $60,000.
Wait, say that again. What do you mean?
If you could get your butt a relationship with, let's say, Pace Gallery.
Yeah.
I mean, Gagosian's done it occasionally. You know, I love this person. I don't know why. I mean, some of this isn't pure, I'm sure. I mean, I don't think the art world is pure. You know, I think there's something to be said about purity between an artist and his or her art. Integrity and stuff. But I'm not convinced that the same integrity exists with who gets shown when, where, why.
Oh, no, yeah, sure.
But regardless, I think, and I'll repeat this next week, there are 3 reasons that galleries, or mostly galleries, would want to work with an artist. I think 20% of it is because they like the art. I think 40% of it is because they like the artist. I think 40% of it is because they see an opportunity. Jeff's about to get the Nobel Prize? Nobody knows? Guys, we should do this. We like his art, right? We've been liking it a lot. Let's go, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the factors. But, liking the art is a prerequisite. Like if the other two things are 40% each, you need that 20 to get over the hump. The art matters.
Yeah.
So,
well, opportunity and like the art. I mean, that kind
some of it's luck. Some of it's, the same reason I mentioned to Mark to be in touch with your gallery once a month. Sort of like, increases the likelihood of an opportunity. It increases the likelihood of luck happening. I'm going to move on, Jeff. Thank you. Hey, Danelle, good morning or good afternoon to you. You are not muted. Go ahead. Wait a minute. Where did you go? You are unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. So I guess I'd like some advice or some suggestions based on where I'm at and some of the ideas that have come to mind. I really don't understand how a relationship would work with a gallery with some of my ideas. I've had a juried art show and I painted live several times. And so my artwork is meant to be shown under revolving lights. It's best shown when I'm there because I like to connect up to the paintings. I like to show them now with certain frequencies that are high and certain vibrations. This concept came through to me having frames built around the paintings that have a chalkboard or dry erase board. And I'd like people to stand in front of the paintings anonymously, because my paintings aren't named. The names are always changing, the painting's always changing. But to stand in front of the painting for as long as they feel comfortable and to anonymously put a feeling, thought, emotion, positive or negative, doesn't matter to me, image into a container alongside the painting. And at the end of the show, it doesn't have to be all the paintings, but I'd like to write that around the frames. And I'd like to see if there's a common image, a common emotion, a common thread. I'd like to travel all around the world with this, and I'd like to document that our perception of how we see things is quite culturally based. It's based on our experiences of the past, where we are at in our vision. And so it doesn't bode well for selling at the moment when you're creating an experience. I know that there's things like cliches, and I could enhance them and sell them limited edition and whatnot, sort of thing. But I feel like I need to hold on to a body of work to have this experience. That if I start, I've never sold a painting. I've never.
Okay, hold on.
I'm not. Yeah.
So here's an example. Look up. Candy's a friend of mine. Look up Candy Chang. Candy Chang. Okay, you see my screen?
Yes.
So she's a TED fellow that I've worked with a little bit. So this is a project not dissimilar from what you're talking about and could be used as a role model from which you can extrapolate and go further. And she has done this all around the world, where she's created this huge billboard and everybody writes down on it what they want to do before they die. And it has appeared in, I don't know, hundreds of places. I don't know if hundreds, but zillions. As if, a lot. So, I think she's done a really nice TED Talk. I think one of the fabulous things, we'll talk about in a couple of weeks is that the gallery system may or may not be applicable, number one. Number two, I can think of about 7 or 8 ways to succeed financially in the art world, and having a gallery be but one of them. I think the ideas you're talking about are easily discussable. I think where you are makes you exotic to a lot of people in a lot of places, that you are more connected with universal harmonies and vibrations. It doesn't seem odd being in Hawaii. You can look at a curator like Michael Rooks, who used to be in Honolulu for quite a while at the Contemporary Art Museum, who is now at the High Museum in Atlanta, Michael Rooks, with whom we did a webinar. You already have something in common. You guys both like Hawaii. And you can write to him and go, hey, I'm an artist in Hawaii. What you're doing is really cool. The same thing, and grow a relationship. I think a lot about growing a relationship, this is where Paul has to listen to what he's saying because he needs to hear it, should be more about the other person and not so much about me. I try really hard and usually fail to make, when I have a conversation with one other person, to make over half of it about them. That is a challenge for me. I think if you want to grow a relationship and you think you don't have much to say about your stuff, that's a great time to talk about their stuff and what you find interesting about it. Because all of us like talking about ourselves more than we like hearing about anybody else. So I think if you give people that opportunity, you're probably going to grow some good relationships. Cool. I'm going to move on to Sarah. Hi, Sarah. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yeah, a little bit, but you could yell a little louder.
I don't know where my microphone is, sorry. I listened to all the webinars, and can you understand my accent?
Yes, I love it. It's awesome.
Okay. And they were all very real, genuine people. I think I enjoyed the fact that they had all wanted to be artists themselves, pretty much. It was in their veins. I think what I likened it to is I watch a lot of X Factor, the music show. And I'm in love with Simon Cowell.
No way.
I am.
I'm sorry, I have to kick you off now.
I think he's fabulous. But when he finds someone he likes, it's always he finds someone that's distinctive, and then he goes, and I like you. And that's what the galleries were saying as well. They find new work that's original, and then they have to like the artist.
I think you're totally right. I hate to agree with you, though. I mean, I like agreeing with you, but is he Australian, or is he New Zealand, or is he English?
He's American.
Simon Cowell is not American.
He is, isn't he?
No. It's the only good thing about America is that Simon Cowell isn't.
He's British.
Yeah. There you go. All right, we've established something significant. Thank you.
It's a very similar sort of process, isn't it? But yeah.
Well, yes, but the other point here, there's a third point. The third point is they are distinctive. The people who are getting attention, oh, look, he did it just the same way somebody else did it. Oh, cool. No, that doesn't ever get anybody attention, right? It's always like, whoa, look how fresh and different that is. What a cool thing. Oh, shit, I wish I thought of that. That's great, right? So I think it's important, it's important to try to not be trendy. It's important to be a leader. It's important to be your own thinker, right? And to make your own path. I mean, the corollary is what galleries are looking for is something they haven't seen before. Show me something that knocks my socks off. Don't show me something that keeps them on. That's an American term.
Thanks.
All right, Sarah, thank you. Clyde, you are unmuted. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Hey, I got a question for you with regards to galleries. I'd say a medium-sized gallery. I'm not talking about a high-end, just maybe a little bit better than a beginner. A gallery's been around for a couple years or so. What's the potential traffic of amount of people that would see your work? What's the average of that?
7.
Okay. Now,
Is that per year or per week or per hour? I wasn't clear on the answer, but
Okay, I'd say in a month, 30 days. I'd say they want to take your work on for about 30 days. They don't hold an individual show, but your work is there amongst other folks. And
25, 30,
okay.
2 or 3 a day, 5 days a week.
Okay, well, what I'm getting to is, we have this marvelous thing, the internet.
Yeah.
And
a lot of these fledgling, let's go with fledgling galleries, somehow or another don't seem to know how to use the internet to their advantage. I mean, they got an awful lot to do, as you guys are aware that an artist has an awful lot to do. And, a lot of these galleries open their doors, but maybe it takes them 2 years before they know what the hell they're even doing. So a website and and have a mechanism for, oh, look, art came in, should be on the website within 2 hours and 33 minutes. Let's send an email out to folks and within 5 hours, and let's follow up tomorrow. That's, that takes a couple of years to get to.
Well, the example that I'm using, when I decided back in February that I was going to attempt to start doing visual art again and attempt to make this as a career, as my introduction to the world, since nobody knew who I was except for a local, maybe I could count on one hand how many people knew I was an artist. I prepared my work. I took as best photographs as possible, and I researched, and I found all these. Right now, I'm on 5 different sites that will host my work for free, no cost to me because I don't have any money. I've had it since February. Plus they provide stats. I've got over 50,000 people around the world that has seen my artwork. I've received 3 commissions.
That's fabulous.
High paying, but 3 commissions, inquiries about that. Of course, I also do marketing on the internet, so that's a forte that I, maybe have an advantage. I do my own marketing.
Yeah, it helps. Everybody's got some forte and some weaknesses, and the point is to find the balance. And you're personable, and obviously smarter than some of these galleries. I wanted to say some point. I don't remember what it was, but
I'm not putting down galleries, but
no, they're not for everybody, and they should.
The objective for artists is to get their work seen. Now I will admit I'm on Fine Art America, and you're almost buried there. There are so many artists in there. It's pitiful. There's over 100,000 some artists, and a couple of the other sites. Now, as a secondary benefit, of course, you can put your stuff on all these different home decor products. If you don't have to use it if you don't want to, but that's a secondary. You get a pittance if they sell something. That wasn't my objective when I started. I wanted to introduce myself to the world. I want to introduce and that is what has happened. That I've met that goal, And if I sell a pillow or something, fine. I get $4, okay. But
somebody like you can go into a physical gallery and say, hey, I've been making art for a short period of time. I'm working on my career. It's a pleasure to meet you. I think you're really awesome. I'm just getting started. I'll be back.
Okay.
I want to show you something right now so you can see how, next time I come back, you can see how far I've come. You can, I don't want anything, the nicest thing when an art gallery says, I want to show you something, but I don't need anything from you.
Okay.
I just want to show it to you and see if you smile or not. That's all.
You read my mind. You knew what I was getting to. Because, a lot of this gallery talk, it doesn't resonate with me,
Me neither, you notice? I can do it. I understand it, but it's sort of like speaking, some funny language. No, it's goofy. All right, Clyde, thank you. Kay, you are up. Go ahead, Kay.
Hello. I was wondering if you've seen a lot of galleries closing over the last, say, 8 years, because I think I'm kind of aware in London that with Brexit looming as well and all that crap, that I think there is a sense of worry about kind of where the gallery is going to stand within all that and whether they're going to survive. And so I guess as artists, and I know we're going to cover this in a couple of weeks, and like you were just saying to Clyde, it's like looking for different ways to show your work.
I think there's a lot of different ways, and I think artists, I think there's an absence of rules that give you the opportunity to create ways that don't exist. You know, before Sol LeWitt, people didn't sell drawings and say, go get somebody to paint this on the wall for you. When you sell it, show evidence of destroying the wall or removing the art from the wall, and then sell the drawing to the next person. Nobody had done that before. You know, before Christo, nobody had said, hey, I'm selling these drawings for more money than they're worth to finance this bigger project. Please give me $50,000 for this $10,000 watercolor. You know, I mean, there are a lot, you know, so that's one kind of a possibility, and we'll get to this more. Your initial observation about galleries having a hard time is definitely true. I think they need to be more creative. More galleries are doing more art fairs. You know, the landscape is perpetually changing. It's like building a house on Jell-O, you know, or gelatin. It's fluid, and you have to be able to respond to the situation. So do you, as an artist. So does the gallery. Some of the galleries seem to lack the flexibility to maneuver well and crumble.
Yeah.
You know, they're too brittle and they can't do it. And some galleries do it, you know, really well. I wonder if the art market isn't getting to look like a Q-tip, you know, where it's big on both ends and thin in the middle, you know, so that you have high-end galleries, you know, like Gagosian, is it Timothy Hill, is it, London? And you know, no, Green. The big name galleries that have more than one location and those kinds of things that, you know, create their own gravity and magnetism. And I think smaller galleries that are working more hand to mouth and more intimate and more genuine, authentic kinds of relationships, I think that has an awful lot of opportunity. I think some of the galleries that are in the middle need to act like some of the smaller, more visceral kinds of galleries. I think it's a tough time. I think it'd be a fun time. I could see, you know, no, I don't like retail. I don't, you know, it's a tough model to make money, but it's got potential. There's all kinds of ways to, I mean, I love the idea of commandeering a space and doing an exhibit for like 10 days that covers 2 weekends and is significant and major with a catalog and press, and it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, 2 big events on the weekends, one weekend, next weekend, goodbye. I think, you know, it takes a lot of planning, but there's a lot of ways to do things. I think galleries can do that. I think they're not used to being creative. The old model worked really well for a really long time. And, you know, basically the art world and art galleries are kind of like cowboys and Indians and kind of like Harley motorcycles, you know, and Rough Rider kind of thing, and like laws? We don't need no laws. We'll just be stupid. And, you know, now they're talking about more regulation. Nobody wants that. I don't think more regulation is going to help. So I guess there's an opportunities for change.
Yeah.
All right, I need some more hands, you guys. Or I'm going to go right to Andy Frost. Andy, you're unmuted. What do you have to say?
How are you?
We're excellent.
I've been working on, great. I've been working more on trying to establish relationships as opposed to having a relationship with a gallery. So I've had some shows in the past in some big cities, but they were basically in responses to calls for art. And I decided I would try to become more local. But just recently I saw there was so there's a planetarium in Boston, and they were showing a show, a light show or some sort of art show along with music of Tom Waits. So I got tickets for it, but before I did, I wrote to the museum and I said, how does one go about producing one of these shows? Because I thought it was very interesting. And I got hooked up with one of the producers who I'm going to meet with. I went to the show. The show was not very well done. So there's a big market
I
there.
love how it happens a lot.
But I was just surprised at myself that I put myself out there to try to reach out and make that relationship. Haven't done much with galleries though. So I'm looking forward to perhaps looking into that a little bit more.
Couple thoughts. I would also be pleasantly surprised that the person said, sure, let's meet, or invited you to do something and didn't say.
Yeah, well, we didn't, we haven't set up a date yet. Sure, let's meet.
I think that's cool. And, you know, it's evidence that I think people are people. And I had another point, and I don't know where it went. Oh, I got it. You said you were going to try to be more local. I don't think it's necessary to be more local, and I'm not even sure it's advantageous to be local. I think one can easily grow relationships via email, etc. And local doesn't particularly matter, or local is more of an attitude. You know, like I just stumbled across an artist I work with is in Seoul, Korea for a month, and I just stumbled across a guide to art in Seoul, and I shared it with him, and he wouldn't have seen it otherwise. I mean, you know, some of that kind of stuff is just like, doesn't matter where you are, I don't think.
Yeah, and you know, I loved doing some traveling and getting my art kind of across the country, but it became expensive and time-consuming. So that is more what led me to trying to be a little bit more local with my work. So I did work, you know, I had a show in, they're all group shows in Brooklyn and Philadelphia and Chicago and Colorado, and a couple of here in Massachusetts and New Hampshire.
Good for you.
But the traveling shows were, you know, expensive.
Yeah, and if you're working with a gallery and it's a one-person show, the expense should be less for the return. I mean, less for what you get out of it. In other words, I'm expecting the gallery to pick up a larger percentage than submitting to juried competitions.
Sure.
And more, and you know, more over time as you deal, you know, progressively with better galleries. Are there other people who want to say something? I've just switched to postage stamp view so I can see. I don't know. Ann, Ann Wildy? Are you gesticulating? Can't tell. Ann Farley Gaines, I see that you are unmuted. Go ahead, girl. Wait, you're not really unmuted. Why can't I? Hold on. Wait a minute. It's not working. I have to go. How do I do this?
I did it. Can you hear me?
Cool. Yes, we can. Perfect. Go ahead.
Well, I want to share an experience I had this week. First of all, I've done pretty well as an independent artist for years. It's probably because a lot of my work has lent itself to commission work, but yet I have wanted to develop at least 2 strains of work to show galleries. And I had this experience yesterday of the curator of a show that I'm in 2 weeks called me, and we're on the phone for an hour and a half. And she said, "You are doing that series of 3 other portraits of famous women, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am, but I would also like to show my new ceramics because I feel like they are like a conduit to my emotions. And every time I'm on the news, I listen to the news, I get very upset about things that are happening. And I've done this ceramic about refugees, and I did another one on a prayer chain. And she said, "I just want you to show your watercolors. I don't want to have your ceramics because I want to have one voice from each artist." And, you know, I basically said, "Well, you're the curator, and I don't want to put a damper on what your vision is. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to finish these other 2 portraits. But I feel sometimes you know, like a gallery would want to see a singular type of voice. And when you want to work in another direction because you're moved to work in another direction, that can be problematic for you. And I didn't want to argue with her, so I'm going to do what she recommended. Yet my heart would be in showing more ceramics because they're more direct and more emotional.
I think it's a challenge, and I want to repeat that, you know, we did a webinar with Jason Middlebrook, and we were talking about the importance of focusing, and Jason said, no, Paul, that's so last century, and that it's important to be an interesting artist. And I think the more, again, it's this level of the gallery. I think the lower tier galleries are going to want you to focus more, and they're going to want, they don't have as expansive and knowledgeable a vision, and they're going to want you to focus more. And maybe that's a good idea for that relationship. Maybe they don't have the ability to deal with their audience and the breadth of it. You know, I'm thinking of two examples from when I had a gallery, and I can remember in the very early years, I worked with an artist who did paintings and did images for Hallmark greeting cards. And, you know, the paintings were fine, but I wasn't interested in the images that got used for Hallmark, and I didn't want to show those, and I thought they were illustrations and not art. Another artist who I respect a lot, who's a significant sculptor, was doing lamps, and I didn't really like the lamps, but at this point I would show the lamps, so my opinion has changed on that. You know, it's a question, Anne, of where one draws the line and how strongly one feels about it. I think you could say, you could put your foot down and say it's a deal breaker, and you could do exactly what you did, and both are real comfortable within the range of what's fine and dandy.
Well, with this particular individual, I don't think a deal breaker would really serve anything.
Probably right. You know, I think it's important you trust your gut, your instincts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good for you.
It would also serve me to do those two other portraits. I did post one on KAW that I did of Eleanor Roosevelt. And I have a great desire to do a portrait of Benazir Bhutto and Madeleine Albright, because I admire those women just up, down, and sideways. And, you know, they're the type of women that I want to put out there to the world as examples of greatness. You know, we all,
make a nice series.
What did you say, Paul?
It would probably make a nice series.
Yes, a series of 10. But I also want to do a series of my refugees and prayer chains and ceramics. So I'd like to do 2 parallel series.
Maybe I think it's all good. You should. You sound like Andy Warhol. I mean, there's a lot of series there.
Campbell Soup Cams, Marilyn Monroe, Chairman Mao.
Yeah. Jews of the 20th century, endangered animals, movie star. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
But yet it was all 2D. I don't think Andy did anything sculptural, did he?
No.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting that literal.
See, I feel like my sculptures and my portraits or watercolors are like apples. Some would see them as apples and oranges.
I think that's fine. They both came from you.
Yeah. And the mixed media work kind of combines the two. My reason.
It doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all yours. It's all okay.
I just want to be intelligent about it, and that's why I'm taking your course. I want synthesis. We all do.
I think synthesis is something we always move towards. If we got it, we don't stay there very long. It's not like what we're synthesizing. You know, a synthesis isn't a singular activity.
No.
So even if we get synthesized, the other is moving.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
That's where I exist, right in that space, right there. I love it. All right, cool. Anne, thank you.
I look forward to posting the portraits when they're done.
I look forward to seeing them. Thank you.
Thank you.
William, you are unmuted. Do you remember what you were going to say?
Yeah, yeah, and it sort of touches on a little bit of what you were just saying.
Good.
I was looking through the galleries, the interviews with the dealers. I also listened to Cheryl Haynes, and like she's showing a really wide variety of really interesting artists, like Ai Weiwei, like really top people. But it struck me that one of the themes that I seemed to notice was galleries would be focusing in different media, like Catherine Edelman is doing photo. Kenise Barnes looks like she's mainly doing painting, and like painting within a certain like set of parameters, or like set of aesthetic tastes and things like that. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that kind of ecosystem, because it seems to me still that like painting is kind of the top dog, like in the dealer world. I wouldn't necessarily say in the contemporary art world, but I think that when you have collectors and buyers, that they're still interested in, you know, paint on canvas. And I could be very wrong.
You know, everybody who goes to art fairs talks about how they don't see painting. And those are the guys, you know, I'm going to say something parenthetically here that just occurred to me, is that if you are really interested in exposure and you're interested in museum exhibitions and museum attention, you want to try and grow relationships with galleries that exhibit at art fairs, because curators are prone to going to art fairs because they can do one-stop shopping, where it's a whole lot more work to bop around Chelsea and get to more than 6 galleries, where you can get to 6 galleries in 10 minutes at an art fair. An awful lot of curators aren't even looking at Chelsea, etc. So I don't think you can say anything stereotypical, William. I think there's some galleries that focus on a medium like photography, and there's some great galleries that do that. Like Frankel in San Francisco is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Catherine Edelman is really good. And you've got art, you know, photographers like Sally Mann, who shows with a gallery like Gagosian, who doesn't show, I can't think of any, maybe there are other photographers, he shows so damn many artists. And same kind of thing in ceramics. You know, most of these things have been bastard medium historically, you know, like craft, or, you know, clay, ceramics was craft,
fiber,
glass was craft, fiber is craft, photography isn't, but, you know, people somehow look down their nose on it. You know, a lot of these things move from having been in that lower echelon to being fine art. Some of them I don't think belong. But, you know, I'm going to back off that statement. I think, you know, I think it's what you know, they all belong if one does something proper with it, or, you know, creative. Does that answer your question enough?
Yeah, it sketches around. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
You are welcome. All right. I'm looking for people moving hands. Ian, I saw you scratch a shoulder. You just bought a painting. It was $2 million, dude. I got your credit card. It's all good. Janice, anybody want to say anything? Put your hand in front of your face. Joe, I see you. Go ahead, Joe.
I really enjoyed listening to the interviews. I felt the people were very intelligent, but really very easy to, I could imagine I was there in your conversation with them.
Good.
And I'd like to be in any one of their galleries.
Say it again.
I wouldn't mind being in any of their galleries, you know.
Where are you? You're in the Bay Area?
No, Sacramento area.
Yeah, Sacramento. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are galleries in San Francisco that are certainly approachable. Yeah. I don't know anybody in Sacramento. I'm trying to think.
There is not that much going on in Sacramento these days. There was a time a few years ago.
Oakland's got some stuff going on.
Yeah, I've been kind of trying that out a little bit. I'm in a place right now where I'm going to be quitting the galleries I'm in, because I'm not very satisfied with the relationships, and I feel like I want to be in a gallery that's a little higher level than what I've been in.
Good.
I have been in such in the past, but not lately, and I think I had, now that I check back on my priorities, I think maybe my priorities were more about selling than they were about making the best work. I mean, I always want to make the best work I can, but I really thought I'd like to make sure that those pieces sold and I wouldn't have to store anything. So I'm always trying to find that balance within myself about the spirit of the work being the priority, of course, but I'd really like to get more of my work in people's places, you know? And I'm pretty productive, so I don't, I wind up storing a lot of stuff.
I think that the selling and the monetizing should become incidental, and that the focus is moving at the art and getting it into the world respectfully. By which I mean you're not giving it away, right? You're getting appropriate compensation. It may not mean retail sales per se. I think you might be looking at a new model. I'm not sure.
I don't make my work with the intention of selling it when I'm working on it, okay?
Yep.
But once I put it to the gallery, I would like to see it sell, of course.
Agreed. And there are other things one can do with the art besides giving it to a gallery.
All right.
Which we will talk about probably in the first week of November. But yeah, there are other ways to go about doing this stuff. I think a gallery is one, and I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive.
Well, I previously I'd focused on showing in museums, and that wasn't about selling. It was about
no, I think that's smart.
Having a grand space to try every idea I could come up with, and focus on installations too. And that was exceptionally rewarding. I felt really great about it.
I think a lot of what needs to be done, and this is a decent example, is to see everything as an opportunity to parlay it, grow it into something else. So that for a museum exhibition, it's an insane opportunity to document it really well, and today to create a catalog. And I'm all in favor of people creating PDF catalogs and sending it to everybody they know, and then having them printed and sending them to special people with some kind of a note. I'm also way more in favor of sending somebody and say, hey, I'm pushing some things here. I'm really interested in your input. I value your opinion, as opposed to saying, hey, look what I did. Aren't I cool? So, you know, I mean, some of these things, you know, when combined and put together, I think can grow these opportunities. I think also, I don't know, I'm thinking about events that you could do that are neither a gallery nor a museum, but that you are piloting it. We'll talk about it more soon.
All right.
Dorothy, that's something else we'll talk about later, the question you asked me. Diane, go ahead, you're unmuted.
Hi, my question has to do with moving from doing juried shows into individual shows. How does that happen? Like, how do you get from...
Okay, so where are you?
Excuse me?
Where do you live?
Maryland.
All right, so there's different situations in different countries, which is why I asked. Basically, in my opinion, juried shows are really close to a complete waste of time. I think they're a waste of time. They might not be complete. Maybe they pay off.
I'm kind of getting to that point where I agree.
I don't see that anything comes from them unless you're competing for a prize and you're going to win a lot of money. I think it's about relationships, and relationships are with individuals and galleries. You have to go into these places or find out the individual who you find interesting. So if it's a gallery, you can walk in and find out who's in charge, who I want to talk to, or you can call and ask. I think with email, you got to do some research and find out who it is. But it is ultimately about a relationship. Unless you're in Australia, it is not about applying. It is not about submitting a proposal. It is about having a dialogue and, hey, I like your art, and I think it would be kind of fun to show it. You think you can have enough work ready for like February? That's how it happens.
Okay.
Many galleries plan further ahead than that. But that's
okay. The other thing I've run into is since I am sort of getting restarted, and a lot shows that I did years ago. I mean, I don't even want to put them on my resume really because they're not relevant. How do I don't know how to word this. How do I present myself, I guess, so that I am better than
pride.
Just look? Excuse me?
With pride. I'm serious.
So do you, like, resumes don't really, I mean, they're not really looking at the resumes and that kind of thing? Like, I'm trying to get into better gallery.
I remember when I was a kid studying history, and Benjamin Disraeli was a prime minister of England and was like 5'0" and really ugly and had a ginormous nose and horrible complexion and dressed really well and just sort of, you know, walked around looking like he was really fabulous, and everybody went, well, he's really fabulous. I think it's about attitude. In my book, a 23-year-old whippersnapper coming out of college with nothing to make art about is pretty friggin' boring. And a woman who is re-entering the art world and has a lot of real-life experience, some of which is probably pretty damn interesting and has, you know, vulnerability written all over. If she's got the ovaries to share that stuff, she becomes a really interesting person to take a look at. And that's something about which you should be proud, and you have something to say and communicate. And people should want to hear about it because it's fresh and different and real and genuine. There's no reason you shouldn't be absolutely proud about that. You went out and have garnered experience, while a bunch of other people, you know, they were getting experience too, but theirs isn't the same as yours. Yours is just as good as theirs. Maybe they had more time at the easel. Okay, you had more time thinking about the issues and what happened to that dog. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their issues are. But I think you do it with pride.
Okay, so if I want to move up to the next level as far as galleries go,
I'm not convinced you know, a next level. It could be, you know, by metaphorically several levels. I think you're looking for what resonates. I think what resonates could be several levels higher and could be someone who's just starting out and one of those whippersnappers who happens to be really sincere. You know, I mean, I've met lots of young people who are really awesome. Just, you know, anyway, I interrupted you.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to get more money for my artwork. And so I need to get into better galleries, I think, to do that. So I'm trying to figure out how to get to that point, I guess is what.
We will talk about this more, but in the meantime, start identifying who those galleries are.
Yeah, I've been doing that.
Anywhere on the planet.
I have a list. Yeah.
Good, this is perfect. I mean, a list of, you know, I mean, a list of 100 galleries would be nice.
Okay. Okay.
And we will talk about next week what to do with that list of 100 galleries.
Okay.
And the way to identify galleries that are interesting is to look at artists who you think are your equal or a little bit more better. I said that wrong on purpose. Than you. And see what galleries they show with.
Right. That's what I've been doing.
And then look at one other gallery, then look at the other artists that show with that gallery. And then look and see where else those other artists show. You are growing a family tree of the family of artists who are your peers and your want-to-be peers. People with whom you think your art resonates aesthetically at a gallery, so that you can write to that gallery and say, ooh la la, you have such a beautiful vision.
I just don't know if I'm making too big of a jump because I don't seem like my.
Don't worry about it.
Show the progress.
It might be, but you know, you need some agreement. And some, you know, I mean, as I said earlier, sometimes galleries are going to look at something and go, oh my God, you're doing something I've never seen before. This is so amazing. I've been waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and some galleries are going to go, are you kidding me? You're not ready. Bye-bye. You don't know. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you know, like if they say it isn't, your agenda doesn't fit our agenda, you go, cool. Better chances for me the next time.
Do you, if you're not, if it's not a fit, is it appropriate to ask them if they have a recommendation of where you might fit? I mean, would they know that?
Frequently, it depends. It's gotta, this is the same kind of thing like friends and dating and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a mistake to send your work to Joe Blow Gallery and the gallery goes no, and you write them back and go, well, who is it right for? I don't think that's correct. But I
wouldn't word it that way, but
I think if you have a relationship with a gallery and you like each other and you're communicating and you say, I really like your aesthetic, I like what's going on, and they go, hey, your stuff is awesome, and we're fully booked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been known to say frequently, let me call Frank and talk to Frank and see, and telling me I'm going to send you over and that I want him to take a look. Some people will do that. Some people won't. But I think it's an act of generosity on the person you're asking, and you shouldn't do it with an expectation.
Okay.
And there's two levels of it. One is, go see Frank. Two is go see Frank and tell him I sent you. Three is, let me call Frank for you. Okay. So I think if you send them a cold call email and say, here's my work, ain't it awesome? And they go, not so much. And you go, okay, cool, who should I send it to? I don't think you're going to get anywhere.
No, that wouldn't fly. Yeah, right.
Okay, good. So as long as we have that understanding, we're good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. I have a feeling somebody else wanted to say something. I'm looking for waving hands and things like that. All I see is my waving cursor. Brian, go ahead. Wait. Let me do it. All right, I'm going over here. It didn't work over there.
I'm unmuted now.
Then
Right.
Go ahead, talk to me.
Okay. Yeah, just the interviews that I watched over the week, Kenise Barnes made a comment that I found was really, it just opened my eyes to something. She said something along the lines of collectors are usually loyal to 3 or 4 gallerists because their tastes are similar. And that helped me envision kind of like when you talk about villages in the art world, that there will be these circles of people kind of swimming around together who have a similar set of ideas that they're interested in. And that, what you want to do is try to find yourself with that group of people that makes the most sense for you, that you have an affinity with.
I think so.
So I'm coming back into the art world after, trying to support a family for 8 years, and I've got there. When I came to New York, I had no sales experience whatsoever. I was very shy, very intimidated at openings. But after working in sales for 8 years, I feel a little bit more confident about that sort of thing. Putting my foot in.
What's that Eddie Murphy movie?
What's that?
What's that Eddie Murphy movie where, the African prince comes to New York? That's you. That sounds good.
Yeah. It seems like it's, there are so many of those little groups around New York City, just to even identify one of them, that makes sense for me at my level, and just start meeting people in that group.
I think I sent you guys early on Dawood Bey's artist statement thing, but more than that, his advice to young artists, which you can also find online. And Dawood did you see that? He just got a MacArthur grant. I think the MacArthur grant gives you $600,000 or something like that. We all get 10%, right? Have you guys read that? Because part of what he says, Brian, is about associating with people who are better than yourself. So
I printed that out, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
it's really short and it's really worth reading. And I just pulled it up on my other screen here, and it looks like this. You can find it online by looking for, Dawood Bey advice young artist. Where does it say associate with people better than yourself? Somewhere in there. It's really nice to see him get an award. Brian, thank you.
All right.
I thought I saw another hand moving. Did I? Are we good? Hi, Beth. I didn't see you earlier. We'll pick on you next week. All right, everybody. And Mary, you can count on it next week. And Anne, we heard nothing. Good. All right. And Ian, fair warning. And Susan. It's a good session, you guys. Thank you very much. You are all unmuted. You can say goodbye to one another. I will see you all next Monday. Thanks all. Take care. Good night, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.